So hi everyone, my name is Frangeskos. Don't worry, I won't be offended if you can't spell my name. I know it's quite difficult. And I'm from Greece as well, so I have to say something before I start. Like, if the Greek philosophers don't do the job, call the Greek gods. They are much more powerful and efficient. So, so just a small note. And as well, the truth is that I haven't really compared or seen Andy's presentation, but I've seen so much similarities with it, which makes me feel good because I feel that is a people who have been through these projects and convergence projects, they know how hard it is. They know that the requirement gatherings and the communication between the business and the actual technical person when they're building is very, very important. So I kind of started with the same question, which is quite funny. So what is a CRM convergence project itself? So myself, I've been on 3 convergence projects until now. I'm around 6 years in the Salesforce space, and each one of it was different, and that's quite amazing because basically I find that based on strategically on what the business try to do and what kind of advice the senior executive have, they have something that they want to build on it. So a lot of times we're going to hear about this 360 customer view. A lot of times they will say we can't see our customer when actually we are sitting in 2 or 3 different CRM instances or orgs or different technologies. We have all these problems. We can't do what our competitors are doing. So basically, there is a really big need to go to one system. So this is one of the big things we see. And we see it in the last years because a lot of the companies have switched now to more a customer-centric business rather than being a business that's focusing on its brands and what it can offer. We see a lot of businesses now going to their own customers and try to focus on them themselves. So I think it was mentioned that what's happening when we have multiple duplicate records, how do we deal with this? So basically going in one platform gives you the possibility to the business to deal with it. So a lot of times, a lot of these projects, the conversion projects will be based on this need of the business. And this is the big similarity that I'll see on each one. And then, well, when it goes to things that are not really similar, it's what kind of project it is or what kind of business it is. So I think it was mentioned again, we have a distinction between when it's a merger and when it's an acquisition. When it's a merger, generally, you will see that there is more like a willingness to go to a common process. When it's an acquisition, sometimes you will see that the company that acquires kind of decides that he will bring someone to its platform. That's not a rule, but that's something that I kind of see. And as well, the culture of a company will be very, very important. Not all companies will be on the same culture. So some companies will be more open into how they're going to merge the 2 different businesses. Other companies will be, we hear about the situations where they acquire a business and they say in 30 days, you need to change your logo, you're going to be on my platform, I'm going to inherit all your data or your opportunities, which makes the business that gets acquired quite unhappy, and we see a lot of people leaving the company and looking outside because they feel so much threatened, but actually their Salesforce system or their CRM system just got completely obliterated and went to another platform. So we can see, and when you are a BA, you kind of getting the feeling directly when you are in the room and you know what kind of product owners and what kind of product team you have, that actually what kind of discussions and how it's gonna go. But it's a journey, and it's a big journey that can last, for a year, like we said. So in the beginning, when I'm hearing about a convergence project, I kind of have some questions that I'm doing that I can cover in an hour to get an understanding of where we are and what to expect. And this is kind of a discovery phase, even before we get to the actual user stories or use cases, depending the methodology that you can use to actually capture these requirements. So a lot of times we see there is kind of a lot of wording out there that is like streamline processes, standardize, harmonize the processes. So a lot of business partners understand that they need to harmonize the system, they need to standardize the business so the actual merge and the conversions of the two instances can be easy. But of course, that can be realistic to the 100% scenario. So there's going to be some unique processes to one business that will not apply to the other. That can happen for many reasons. It could be legislation. It could be that it's a global business and the culture between the countries is different, and the business A didn't really operate it in the country of the business B, so the whole process will change. So they don't feel familiar with that. So there is always uniqueness that you can't disregard. And if you disregard, the actual users might feel that the functionality has been forced on them. And that is very important to understand for when business partners and product owners are in the room, that they are the representatives of these users, and they have a heavy burden to actually represent and bring the right functionality. And that sometimes you might feel that they don't want to, by security, disregard a process that existed for a long time because it feels safe sometimes to go to the same processes for your users, especially if we're talking about hundreds of users or thousands of users. So one of the big questions that will start will be a kind of a CRM overview and a system overview. So I will start the discussion about what kind of systems you have. Is it a Salesforce or is it a different system? It could be like something like NetSuite or Dynamics, something else. Just a question about the technology. But I will not try to solve the technology at this or bring the technology too much in discussions straight away in the beginning, because you're just going to end up speaking about how different the systems are or the experience they don't like. So it's just to give you an early understanding of it's going to be Salesforce or it's going to be another system. And do not underestimate if there are two Salesforce orgs to think that it's going to be easy. Two Salesforce orgs can be very different. Like one that has been developed for 10 years with a lot of code will be completely different than a 2 years old with configuration and point to click. So you always want to get an idea, and of course, how many different CRMs you're going to be changing. So are you going to vision in 2 or are you going to vision in 10? And that's not an exaggeration. So in some processes, you might find that. Another question which I'll do is going to be how many users you have. So straight away, I'll get an understanding of how many users we're talking, and the numbers to understand of how many processes we can have, a quick idea of it, and follow up with the questions of what kind of persona. So I'm not gonna say sometimes titles, but in the agile methodology, before even you start creating your user stories, normally you should be defining your personas, which could be the kind of users that you're gonna have. It could be the salespeople, like sales account managers, that we're gonna sometimes say farm the accounts, and it could be some sales executives that will be more in the beginning of the opportunities, which they will be doing more like just moving 1 or 2 stages, the opportunities in the beginning, just to understand the differences between the two orgs or businesses itself. Because a business that has a lot of marketing executives, for example, could be different than a business that has changed and now the most marketing communication happens through electronic means and marketing platform. So just to understand the differences there. As well as I said, the geographical coverage that actually you're going to cover after you get into the future state. So it's very important to understand that sometimes the businesses could be sitting in 2 different regions. So actually when you put them together, you now have a global platform. A global platform will run like almost 24 hours a day, because it's going to run with different times and with different users, and you want to have an understanding of how much you cover. I have seen in the past as well, be working with users in Japan, that they will input Japanese characters within the system, and they expected the Salesforce to be translated in Japanese. So at that point, it's always better to have a clear understanding from the beginning rather than have it at the end, because translations can be kind of time consuming. So once you get that, if it's a Salesforce and if it's a sales organization, pretty much it's going to be accounts, contacts, opportunities, the things we know and love and the most companies use. If it's a non-profit organization, and I don't know if we have someone for non-profit organization here, I will really double check if they're using like an NPSP pack, the non-profit organization pack, which is like a little bit more specific than the standard Salesforce, or as well something that will start from the beginning. If I understand that there is a business to consumer business, I will ask if they have personal accounts activated. That's quite important. If you're getting between a personal accounts activation and a standard Salesforce, you have a lot of differences. So that this you're already going. You will not be able to have an account on a person's account. The standard business won't really work very well. So you have some technical difficulties that your architect will be very happy to know straight away. When you know that, I'll continue the discussion within the business model and the account hierarchy. And that's generally the first thing I'll start, because when we're talking about the 360 view of the customer is within the accounts and the contacts generally. So the actual account hierarchy can be very different, even in a Salesforce. And when I say that, I didn't bring a graph, but what I do mean is like, do you have a group parent account? Do you have like a child account records associated with them? And how many levels you have? Who creates the new accounts? Is it something is controlled? And to make sure that between the two different orgs, how many differences we have. Some org might say we don't really care. The account managers will create the accounts. They create how many levels they want. So you will see that within a single Salesforce instance, you can have different account hierarchies. So basically, when you try to merge, that will play a crucial role, especially on the data transformation. I think it was mentioned on the previous presentation. That is, an exercise that sometimes needs specialists on a conversion project. You're gonna need very, very good data transformation. So you might need multiple people, not only technical. You might need technical and business to actually collaborate together to be able to provide this one single customer view in the new org. So additionally, I'll be requesting questions to understand if the model of the business is a business to business or if it's a business to consumer. And when I say consumer, or business to individual, even better, because the individual sometimes plays a crucial role within a business. And it could be, for example, that you have a consultant playing the role of the customer, and your customer you not really interact with it. So we're going in a position of direct and indirect sales. So at that, I'll have an early understanding of what exists within the two models, and an early understanding how that will be merged together. Within the contacts and account, is good to ask sometimes what is a customer for you and what is a prospect, just to make sure. Like Salesforce kind of has a very standard definition of what is a customer and what is a prospect, but sometimes you want to ask the businesses, because there's a lot of businesses that operate with, they consider a prospect even someone who is your customer but doesn't really use all the different products of your company can offer. And when you have different businesses in different org, sometimes you will have this duplicate, but you can't cross-sell, you can't upsell, because you don't have them in the same org. So basically here, directly getting an understanding of the marketing and the sales world and how these two interact, you will understand if when you're going to bring the actual business the business representatives in on the product team, what kind of different conflicts they're going to have, or what they're going to discuss about, we don't do it that way, it's not going to work for us. This is kind of phrase that you're going to hear. And when you are a business analyst, your role is to try to drive them to the best solution to capture the best requirement. And you try to do that without focusing too much on the technology, but more on the business. So it's really good for me to know that well in advance before the requirement gathering meetings. The next one will be the sales funnel, the opportunity types, and the pipeline. And when I say sales funnel, I mean, like, generally, if you only focus in the CRM world without the marketing, you will focus within the qualified lead to actually close opportunity to one. You want to get an understanding of how much important it is, the funnel, how much control the business has over the funnel, and it can vary. It doesn't mean that the new company wouldn't care for a funnel, and a big company or a company that has been operated for years will do, because a lot of young companies who try to go public, this is one of the big things, is what is their funnel, how they operate. They need to clean all the reporting if they want to apply for going public. So this is something that I'll ask. I'll get a few questions to see how developed they are, how control they have over it, and how important it is, as well as the highest level of the company, so like executives and the board members will be very interested in the global scale of it. So a lot of times when they're asking about a convergence project is so they can get this reporting on the second by one click and not have to ask technical people to go on the background, merge all of this into warehouses and then get the reporting done, but they can get in the same platform. So it's quite powerful. A lot of times the sales funnel is very, very important. And I say opportunity types as well, and I don't say opportunity record types. And that's it, because when you get the discussion, you're trying to understand what different opportunities the business will do. So is it like, do they have a direct sales? Do they have an indirect sales? And that's going to be different. And it's going to be kind of a slice that you need to put into your reporting, and it will affect the whole business. Me personally, I try to stay away from the technical terms of record type and everything, so I can leave after the main requirement gathering phase. So when we're going to go to the design phase to actually present our solution, it's going to be better for all the technical people, all the development team to sit around and find the best solution possible.
Just when you're merging sales orgs, and you've talked largely about sales orgs, the sales process is the sales process. I get it gets complicated when you've got other things, but apart from the egos of sales managers, which can be considerable, is it really difficult? I mean, because decision-making criteria, decision-making process, yes, political alignment. It strikes me as that the sales process is the sales process, so, and it shouldn't be that tricky.
Yeah, but getting them to agree if you've got multiple people from different countries is the real challenge.
No, I agree, but actually it shouldn't be, because the sales process is the sales process.
Yeah, but just because this is a scenario that I've seen in reality, so just to give you an example there. So imagine if I have been in a business which, when they did the merge, they had one single sales process. It was aligned through all the global, and it was a great success. And a lot of people said it was a very successful project because we had one single sales process, which I'll agree to a certain degree. Because if in your sales process, a lot of times you define your sales stages. When you define your sales stages, it depends the type of transaction you have with your customer. And if you have a different offering to your customer that requires a step that doesn't exist on the other one, then you need kind of, if you want to be really applying and giving the best chance or an experience to the customer when it goes through your selling process, you might want to have a step that doesn't exist for the other product, especially if these products are not shared within all the countries. You are in a global scale project. There is absolutely good configurations that can solve both having different processes, but when you get in the reporting, not to see it, and just have a report that maybe you don't really care about this. You don't care about the stage as much as you care in what percentage they are, just to speak to the sales world a little bit. Yes, absolutely. And
you don't want to do that because it costs more money to configure it at the local level.
I tend, experience taught me that actually it's good to keep an open mind when you're in the room when these things are discussed, and always have the right people in the room, because businesses are different and the way they operate. So it's good to have that. That's your role, to guide them into this discussion and to get the best solution out. What is your success in one convergence project might not be on the second, and you don't need to be obsessed by it. If you are obsessed by it, you might try to force something that doesn't go to the business. Your product team won't be happy about it. First of all, they will feel that you don't understand them, mostly. So I keep an open mind. The most of the times I try to understand what the people do there, and a lot of times we try to map down the actual what's happening, who is your actual salesperson, who is your actual customer. Very good there is to bring a real example that is happening on the business. And something else as well is to get some analytics about how much percentage of this process we are talking. Because if it's just like a 5% of the business, you don't really want to build a massive rule on a global scale just for 5% of the business. But if it's something that they feel it's 5%, but in the future will grow, they might want to incorporate it. So again, keep an open mind. These discussions and the requirement gathering is kind of a very important step. So let me get to the next. So until now, I think you're going to find that everywhere, like the accounts, the contacts, and the opportunities. This is what the sales organization really is. Now, depending how developed they are, or how free, or how exactly they operate, they might have quotes, product pricing, and contracts. And here you're getting really into the complicated tasks. So I wouldn't really, in the beginning, just drill down to the details of it. I will leave that for the requirement gatherings, but I will get an understanding of, do you use codes? Yes. If you're using products, do you use a tool like CPQ, or do you use the standard Salesforce product table? What kind of pricing you have? And when I say what kind of pricing, I mean what kind of, is it ranges, is it one-off? For example, if you're going into a software business, you will find that they're going to talk a lot about subscription. And when they talk, because a lot of the software businesses now has transformed from one-off purchase to subscription basis solution. So when you are there, you're going to hear a lot about the first year contract value, which is how much they're expecting within the year, because the subscription is something that is running. Salesforce out of the box standard doesn't really have a solution for it. It just have an amount field. This is something that you find more in the developed CPQ, but in the very early stages, I just want to learn. So what are we talking about? Is one business unit have, for example, quotes, thousands of products, and the other one maybe 2 offerings? And that's that can happen, because if you have an acquisition of actually a big business that operated for 20 years, you will expect a big product catalog with complicated price sometimes and a lot of price books. When you talk about a new business, you generally have much less offering, as they have less offering, but they focus. So the experiences are completely different. And you need to be very careful for this, because the new people that will come, experiences and user experience plays a big role into adoption of the Salesforce. Yes, I'm not going to go more on that. So, so territory management, forecasts, and quotas. And that's something that actually, if you look at it in the years before, I think the most of the companies that had Salesforce went for a custom territory management. Some of them have built a lot of reporting to do forecast, and even custom functionality for the quotas. I had the chance to work with enterprise management, the last change of Salesforce that they've done, and I think these things they were much more developed now, and they well work together in a way, especially for businesses that do not have a lot of developers that can go to a journey of creating all this functionality. They can leverage this. So I will request what kind of territory structure they have. I'm not going to deal into the really details how it's using, but I will try to understand what kind of territory management you have, how is the forecast, what kind of teams is it, do you have quotas across your whole sales organization, and if they want to go in one Salesforce platform, so does that mean that you have a structure already in place, or are you looking to have a structure already in place to deal into territory management, forecast, and quotas on a global level, basically? And normally, wherever you are in the business, you will have some custom functionality. So if you want to cover everything, absolutely. If you have just an hour, probably what I've described, it will take the hour. But if you have the whole day, probably you can drill down to what custom functionality they have. If it's financial sector, you're going to hear a lot about AUM and investment accounts. If you are within the software business, subscription, hardware and software, you're going to hear these things. So you can focus into what is very important and has been developed into the Salesforce platform. But generally, that's kind of a non-technical, more functional things that you want to cover to get the best understanding in the minimum time that you have, so you can agree with your design team of what's coming. And I say CRM Convergence is a marathon, not a sprint. And I think we all know when you're getting into a convergence project, you're talking about a lengthy project. Lengthy project means resources, budget. If we have PMs in the room, I'm sure they know what I'm talking about. There's going to be a lot of exchanges and forces, and there's going to be visibility from senior executives, as is probably one of the most expensive projects that the company has done into their platforms. What I found here is that, so it is as well that you need the resilience. You need resilience, and the best way to actually address the fact that it's going to be long is to have a great team and have great communication with them. And that's why I really like Agile methodology, because Agile methodology has some real good concepts from their daily stand-ups to actually, if you can design within the same room, really helps, brings the kind of technical world with the business world, not have all these long processes of let's document everything, but more let's tackle the issue, let's satisfy the actual requirement that we want to build and make the CRM Convergence go live. On that note, a lot of times we refer in this project as Salesforce Convergence, but a lot of times now we are saying, is Salesforce just a CRM? And I don't know, what do you think about that? Who thinks here that Salesforce is just a CRM? Yes, exactly. So when you're doing a CRM convergence, you just not converge only the CRM, but you build this hub. You build the foundation and the basis of your ecosystem. And if it's strong, you're going to be able to accelerate, go fast, build, and outperform your competitors into the market. So basically, CRM convergence projects a lot of time are very crucial, and they will make the difference into your market and the competition. And with that, I'll finish. And what kind of questions do you have?
Quick question about product catalog. Have you had to rationalize a product catalog as well as do the convergence as well?
Yes, absolutely. And it had happened when actually the thing is, we've said, let's focus on MVP. So this is very important, where actually you get your requirements, you're going through the exercise of the must-haves. Because it's a lengthy project, as you're going through the time, you will see that in the beginning, a lot of things were must. And then slowly they're starting pushing. As you know, the pressure's coming in the room with the product owners, and you're actually saying, is this really a must-have? Because you didn't have it before, so you can't make it. So keep that in mind. Where the product catalog becomes a must-have is when the business is really interested into upsell. So if they are interested into cross-sell and upsell, you will need your product catalog to be very competitive. You will need a way of bringing into your salespeople the product in a way that can be understood and sold. And a lot of the salespeople, as expert as they are, if you're getting in a very complicated business, like data and software businesses, for example, sometimes they might not know that X data sets really goes with the specific OS or not, stuff like that. That they will relying into a more technical person to be with them. So in reality, sometimes that doesn't happen, especially if you have a very long catalog. So you can build your catalog in a way that is only presents the right combination. And that's what kind of configuration quote tools a lot of the marketers are doing. And this is what they're presenting to their customers. So if you have that as a must-have, then it incorporates within the CRM Convergence. And you are here for a long time, generally, because it's exceeding your scope a lot.
How do you manage business expectations in terms of the ever-changing requirements? Like basically, the business gives certain set of requirements initially, and when they actually see the demo around it before go live, and they think about changing it at that time, how do you manage?
Yeah, I think your answer is within the question. So basically, you've said it. It's the requirements changing over time. They're not stable if you think about it. So you know you're doing a good job when actually a business holder that was sitting on a requirement and it was the most necessary thing, and he just changed his mind because he realized that he got the real idea, the real deal. And at this point you're doing your job quite good, because it's always evolving, and you're just trying to find how are you going to get to the best solution. So you can't dictate the requirements to the business owners. You can't do that. That's they know the business much better than you when you are a BA, especially when you are a contractor, or when you are in a consultancy that you are just bumping into business. You have in front of you people that dedicated their lives. Some are like 20 years there. They know their customers by names. They build a so when you're getting there, you're not gonna really dictate their business, but you're trying them to make them successful. That's your goal. That's really your goal. So if they understand that, and you have an idea, it's not just one person. It's the whole product team that tries to design, tries to find the way. So it will change when you go live. And this is your methodology will play a role in this, because if you are in a waterfall methodology, you don't change your requirements. You have all your phases in cascade, so it doesn't have a lot of flexibility. That's why the most of the projects right now running on Agile, because Agile gives you this flexibility, which can be good and bad. It can be very good when you need to be flexible and you have the right requirement that will accelerate your project and will make you successful on the market. It can be very bad because it will extend your scope, it will delay the product, and a delayed product might don't even go live. So yeah.